Hi guys, I'm here with my Newbery Award winner, and I have Flora and Ulysses by Kate DiCamillo and illustrated by K.G. Campbell. And this was published in 2013 by the Candlewick Press. It has a total of 231 pages, and the appropriate age level is from 3rd graders up to 8th grade. The genre, it would fall under fantasy and fiction as well. And this story, something that I really liked about it is that it has different illustrations. And right here on the cover, it's kind of like the comic strip illustrations. And then, since I was talking about the illustrations and comic strips, I'm going to actually talk about my assignment real quick. And for the assignment, I'm going to have the children write or illustrate a comic book and include dialogue between the characters in their comic book. And like the beginning of the story, it's Flora's mother Phyllis's birthday, and so we have illustrations here of how her birthday is going and what she's receiving for a present. And so this is what I will have my students do is after reading the story, we're gonna illustrate a comic book. It'll be 2 blank pieces of paper, copy paper. We'll fold that hot dog style, and then once it's in hot dog style, we'll fold it again in hamburger style, and then one more time to create 8 boxes. And you'll have a total of 8 boxes to create this comic book or comic strip of a birthday they remember very well. So that's the assignment for them. And after they insert the dialogue and they create the illustrations, they can color it in if they would like, or keep it as black and white as this book did. And then this book also has other types of illustrations, not just comic book or comic strip illustrations. And so this book I thought was pretty funny, and it was something different and interesting. And it begins with Flora right here looking out her window and seeing that her mom is vacuuming the front lawn, and she accidentally takes in the squirrel that will later be named Ulysses after the vacuum. And so I don't know if you can tell, but here some of his hair is missing due to the vacuum. And so I think it's a really interesting book. It's pretty funny. I think the children will like it because it talks about friendship and love between parents and the child. And Flora in this book her parents are divorced. And her mother has a new husband or boyfriend, I can't remember very well. But she's going through that. And so in the story, Flora ends up developing a beautiful relationship with her father and also with Ulysses. And this friendship becomes important to her. But throughout this whole story, we see that her mother is opposed to this friendship because she is befriending a squirrel. And I guess I forgot to mention, but the squirrel in the story is vacuumed up and dies. So Flora does CPR on it, and she's able to revive the squirrel. And it's a pretty interesting because before the squirrel was vacuumed up, all that was going through his mind was food and just looking for it. After the squirrel is revived, you can see and feel his thoughts because it describes how he's seeing light for the first time and he's thinking more. And so when he is revived, he comes back with super strength and intelligence. He's not able to communicate verbally, but he can use a typewriter that Flora's mother uses to write her romance novels. So that's how they are able to communicate. And throughout the whole story, we see what they've gone through. And I'm going to skip all that stuff in between and then jump to the end where I think it ends beautifully because we see that Flora's mother, Phyllis, does not want the squirrel, and so she is able to convince the squirrel to leave. And when the squirrel leaves, when Ulysses leaves, he leaves a poem for Flora. And this is a poem that Ulysses leaves behind. And then in the end, they all eventually gather up after finding Ulysses with Mrs. I can't pronounce her name. It's Mrs. Misham, I think that's how you pronounce it. And so then they all gather around and they start telling, and then Flora's mom starts telling the truth of what occurred and how she feels bad about it. All she wanted was the best for her daughter. And so we get to know how the parents, or I guess the mother is, and she doesn't really portray her emotions to Flora. And so Flora has gone thinking that she's not loved. But in the end, we realize that people show love in different ways. And so I think that's the important lesson that children will learn. Not every person will be affectionate and hug you and say, I love you. And so they must know that even though we don't portray those emotions, that we do love them. It's just we show them differently. And I also think it'd be a great book because it will get students to start talking about their emotions and about their families and what's going outside of school, because many of our kids do have parents that have been divorced or they're going through things. And so I think this is a great book that we'll be able to use to talk about it. And it also demonstrates how people love differently. And I think the kids will love it. It's a funny book. They will really enjoy it. And I think most of them can relate to Flora in a way because the way she describes her summer and how she doesn't want to do chores and she'd rather just ignore mom if she could. And I think it's a book they would really enjoy, and I'm glad I was able to read it.